What is your most traumatic experience with a teacher? So when I was in kindergarten I didn't make it to the bathroom in time and wet myself. Went to the nurse's office, got new clothes, but instead of panties I had to wear a pull-up. Not a big deal. I guess it was a school policy for kids my age, I don't really know. When I get back to my class my teacher loudly says, "Oh good, the baby is finally back," or something like that. She also knew about the policy and asked if I was wearing a diaper so every other student could hear. I was 5 and felt a ton of shame and humiliated. I started crying and trying to get out of school a lot because of it. My teacher often referred to me as a baby for the rest of the year. Also she would constantly ask if I needed to potty or if I was wearing a diaper, like I was a toddler or something. I work for a school district, formerly at the school in the front office. Make friends with those ladies. We watch out for the kids in a whole different way than teachers do. We also speak up when a teacher or another kid is being in a hole. The front office people are the ones who will pull you aside and say, "Hey, that teacher is a beep." The amount of kids I used to pull into the office because they were doing something dumb and just talk with them was high, but they liked me cause they knew I was consistent. I'd also never write them up if they corrected their behavior. On a few occasions I straight up told the parent, "You need to speak with our principal about your kid's teacher because it's not the kid that's the issue." We had one case where a kind teacher kept sending out this kid around an hour after lunch because of his behavior. He'd be flipping out and we'd let him. Didn't even call our admin. Let him throw a temper tantrum and then talk to him, and eventually he'd curl up and pass out. Kid was exhausted. We didn't have nap time and this teacher was against any kid sleeping in her classroom. That goes against district policy. So it became routine that after lunch I'd swing by his classroom and we'd go on a walk back to the office. He'd talk to us, color and then sit quietly for 4 minutes and nap for 45. And then he was fantastic after that. Lead me to the land that you understand. Ocean man. The voyage to the corner of the globe is a real trip. Similar experience when I was in kindergarten. Family was always in a rush in the morning, so I would eat breakfast in the car on the way to school. My mom would put my drink in a sipping cup to avoid spills. Apparently the teacher somehow saw me drinking from the sipping cup, even though I would always leave it in the car before getting off to go to school. One day first thing in the morning the teacher starts drawing a baby bottle on the board and starts talking how only babies drink from bottles, and then in front of the class asked me if I was a baby because she saw me drinking from a bottle and how I should stop drinking out of bottle. This made me obviously not want to go back to school, and that made the teacher dislike me even more, since now I was a student being uncooperative because he felt uncomfortable at school. Not exactly me, but had a teacher yell at one of my friends for not doing his homework and give him a Saturday school, even though his parents had died the night before. The one and only detention I ever received occurred in somewhat related, though decidedly less horrible, circumstances. I was in 3rd grade and had a math teacher that had this stupid policy that every math test, after she had graded it, needed to be brought home and signed by our parents and returned to her within 2 days. During that school year, my mom got in a terrible car accident in which she got hit head on by a semi-truck. She almost died, was permanently crippled, and spent several months in the hospital. We had a math test a couple days after her accident. My stepdad spent the whole week in the hospital by my mom's side, no doubt stressed out of his mind and not knowing if she would pull through. He didn't want to bring my brother or me to the hospital, as he didn't know if we could handle seeing my mom in that condition. My brother and I were left home alone all week, with neighbors occasionally checking in on us to drop off meals. Anyway, I hadn't seen either of my parents in days, and obviously couldn't get either of them to sign my test. When I tried to explain the situation to my teacher, she cut me off and said she didn't allow excuses or some similar BS and gave me detention the following day. Since I didn't have anybody at home who could pick me up, I had to walk the 2 miles or so home from school after the detention. A week or so later, when my brother told my stepdad about everything that had happened, he showed up to pick me up from school, which he'd never done before, as we took the bus to slash from school and absolutely tore the teacher a new one. almost bringing her to tears. The teacher never apologized to me or looked me in the eyes again, for that matter, and I forged signatures on every other test that year. Also, FWIW, I had gotten 100% on the test that led to my detention. Technically it was the vice principal, but the day my brother died, apparently he thought it would be a good idea to walk in on story time. The teacher was reading to the class, set me on his lap, and tell me in front of everyone that my brother committed suicide. WTF. Dude, what a freak. I'm so sorry this happened to you. You see, to me, your brother, well, he pulled a toaster bath. Yeah, I'm all good, no worries. It's been years since this happened, but I think back on it occasionally and just wonder what the beep that man was thinking. My favorite teacher in middle school was arrested for child pornography. He wasn't my favorite after that. He also wasn't my teacher after that. Why is this so common? Every person I have met had told me that at some point in their school history, some teacher was fired for either CP or going after female students. Even in my own school. Though it does remind me of a time where we had a supply teacher in our class that would kind of just ogle directly at any girl in front of him when he wasn't doing that. He would then just deadpan stare at the person next to me until another girl walked past him. That was the only time I saw that teacher. In my high school, my favorite teacher was fired after accusations surfaced he was a girls basketball coach. We were all horrified. I had known him since I was in 2nd grade. The girls he coached swore up and down he didn't do it. He was too good. Yeah, he didn't. The girl who accused him wanted to switch schools, but since she was a junior playing varsity, if she switched schools she wouldn't be able to play her senior year unless she switched because of something big, like say a teacher/coach harassing you. I was in the 4th grade. Found a dry erase marker on the playground. I wrote my initials on the tire swing. Classmate rats me out. I get yelled at for like 20 minutes straight about vandalism of school property. She starts going off about how it's the first step to becoming a criminal. Being a little kid, this scared the beep out of me. It was probably another 2 years before I believed that I wasn't going to become a criminal as an adult. Got accused of plagiarism over a paper I wrote and didn't plagiarize that I was really excited about because of how well I thought I did on it. Enthusiasm fully destroyed. I had a similar experience where my lit professor brought me in to tell me my paper was flagged by the software for being plagiarized from over 180 other student papers from around the country. Not websites, not public articles, student papers from other schools. Longest chain of plagiarized words was 6. I laughed because I thought she was pointing out how ridiculously sensitive the software was. She was offended that I laughed at her. I asked her if she really believed that I tracked down almost 200 students to steal 3-word phrases from them and stitch them together into a paper, which would take 50x the effort that it actually took to write it. Not in those exact words. I really thought I wrote a great paper. Got an A, but I think it was because she felt dumb. Edit, spelling and clarity. This sounds like a "this sounded better in my head" scenario. When I was in 2nd grade, my mom died. When I was in 3rd grade, the evil witch of a teacher held me back from recess one day for something. While it was just us in the room, she asked if I went to church. I said no. She then told me that I was going to hell and would never see my mom again. I hated that beep. This thread is filling me with rage towards some teachers. Holy beep. What a douche canoe. Children not knowing/believing in what is an obvious fairy tale really pisses Christians off. I know a waiter in hell. He says you are not on the guest list. Beep Christians who try to manipulate children into their religion. My mom told me the only way I would ever see my dad again is if I became a Christian. I was 4. In the 8th grade I had a book report to do for 4 books all due on the same day. That was way too overwhelming to do at the time. I had some serious domestic violence going on at home between my parents. Spent all my time taking care of my younger brother, cleaning up the house, cooking, and crying from all the stress. It was worth 20% of my grade in the day before it was due. I broke down and told my teacher everything, down to the time when my brother bled from his head from being hit by my dad, to the most recent attempted murder upon my mom. If I had even received a B, my dad would beat the beep out of my mom for giving birth to a stupid kid. He called child services, my parents received the call, and gave me the silent treatment for 3 days. They told him I lied, just to get out of the assignment. The social worker told my teacher what my parents said and made the rest of my year a living hell. He treated me with such pettiness after that, and threatened to call my parents whenever I had either spoken too loud in class, or whenever I was unparticipative in gym. He called my parents for my bad behavior. Home life got significantly harder after that, and my parents told my entire family continuously how stupid I was for telling him. They laughed at me when I cried, or got upset about it. Years later, after repressing everything, I was diagnosed with severe PTSD from childhood trauma as a witness and victim of domestic violence, attempted murder thrice, and it took me 3 years in therapy to get over it. It was quick, but it was tough as it was during my university years, and I ended up having to take an extra year of school to catch up mentally. I was ready to speak up about my struggles again when I couldn't function anymore as the traumatic flashbacks occurred twice a week for hours at a time. I couldn't do a single thing except tremble and live in fear. I was 18 by the time I was ready to reach out for help. Beep you, Mr. Gentle, your name is creepy as beep, and I really do wonder if being a petty 33-year-old to a 12-year-old child made your quality of life better. I hope that there's proper procedures put in place to protect children from such experiences. I had a teacher who found out I was B and refused to let anyone sit in the seat next to me at my table. It wasn't like I was in the back of the class, I was dead center front row, and she said it out loud to the class. I hope that teacher got fired. In my school she would have gotten promoted. Thank goodness for the brave people in the LGBTQ community and advocates for working to try and end this beep. Keep fighting. Happy early Pride Month. Used to love math and science until I had a teacher in 6th grade who would bully, mock, and do everything in his power to embarrass me in front of the entire class. I lost all love I had for school after that class. Beep you, Mr. Bright.